Assalamualaikum and hi. Now we goes to our next discussion on the fundamental of logistics. This module will explaining on the logistics relationships, and this is the part 1 of module 3. The objective of third module is to explain on the relationships of the logistics activities within a firm.
Okay, before we further discussion about the logistic relationship, I want you to recall in the first module that we have a few parties involved in the logistic process. So as being shown in this figure, there are a supplier, tier 1, tier 2, the manufacturers, the distributors, and of course, at the final stage, it is customer. There are some of the logistic supply chain process. There are the retailers between the distributors and the customers. Okay, so in your opinion, is there any relationship must exist in this logistic process? Why they must have a relationship? Is it important to the parties in this process, in this logistic process? Try look around us. Okay. Is there any relationship between them? What will happen if there is no relationship between the supplier, between the supplier and the manufacturer and distributors? Let's say the supplier A, and there's no relationship between supplier A, supplier B, supplier tier 1, tier 2. There's no relationship. What will happen in the logistic process? Do the becomes more efficient and effective? When they have a relationship, they have a good relationship, they become more efficient? What do you think?
In the logistic activities, there are two types of logistics relationships. The first one known as vertical relationships, and the second one is horizontal relationships. I hope you can understand the differences between these two types of logistic relationships. Generally, in logistic activities, there will be few parties involved, like as manufacturers, vendors, retailers, distributors, and of course, the last party will be the end user. So, among these parties, there are the relationships exist. For this module, you need to understand what kind of relationships exist between those parties. The first one is vertical relationships. In vertical relationships, you need to understand there is a traditional relationships between the parties in the logistic activities. The traditional relationships among the parties, such as retailers, distributors, manufacturers, and suppliers. You need to know that each relationships, they have pros and cons. So from in this slide, you can see the flow of the vertical collaboration, okay, of the vertical relationships, which is the transactions occurs between the buyers and the sellers, between the suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and retailers. If you see from this figure, the vertical collaboration or vertical relationships, there are the transactions between those parties involved. The objective of the vertical relationships is to improve the efficiency, and then the benefits can be in terms of sharing the plans and provide mutual visibility each other. And of course, it is also aligned between supply and demand, by directly sharing critical information like as sales forecasts. So, how about the horizontal relationships? The horizontal relationships, it includes those business agreements between firms that have parallel or cooperating positions in the logistic process. If we see from the diagrams, supplier 1 and supplier 2, okay, they have cooperating positions in the logistic or supply chain process. You can refer to this figure on the how actually the transactions, the flow of transaction between but between between the manufacturers, distributors, and retailers. This is what we call as horizontal collaboration or horizontal relationships. So what are the benefits of this relationship? Actually, this kind of relationships able to eliminate hidden costs in the process, in this logistic or supply chain process, which is every parties pay for by allowing joint product design, sourcing, manufacturing, as well as logistic. So actually, if we see from the figure, we can say that they are sharing the costs. They are likely to work together in appropriate and useful ways to see that the customer's logistic objective are met. Okay. In this case, customers' logistic objectives, the word term customers is not 100% referring to the end user, okay? The customers here's example, suppliers. Suppliers 1 and suppliers 2, they are working together. They supply the raw materials to the manufacturers. So, the customers here will be the manufacturers.
Now let's look to the example of horizontal collaboration. Horizontal collaboration, as I mentioned before, it is a kind of relationship which is the arrangement between the companies that have parallels or they are cooperate each other in the logistic or supply chain process. The main objective of this kind of relationship is to eliminate hidden costs in the supply chain process. So the example that we can look into is Hershey, Go, and Ferrero Group in North America, which in the last 2 years, these two companies announced to collaborate on certain things such as warehousing, transportation, and distribution. So actually, this kind of relationship, horizontal relationship, is gaining famous amongst the industry players.